Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world joining us. We're so happy to have you here at USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the president, founder, and chief everything, really, from production standpoint here at our network. Our show today is Authentic Achievements, and our topic is the plans I'm making for change in 2023. Before we actually talk about that topic, we're going to welcome the star of our show, who is celebrating a major authentic achievement herself. Let's welcome KIM-ADELE Randall and find out what she's been up to. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you? Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays. I'm good, thank you. I'm good. We're all full of festive cheer, and my little girl is on her very last day of school, and I think she might actually self-combust with excitement. I dread to think what's going to happen between now and next week, because she's climbing the walls. She's that happy.
That's so beautiful to be excited about something. If you think about it, as we get older, we don't get as excited as we used to. But as a kid, it's like, wow, this is the greatest thing. And then it's Christmas, and just a bunch of festivities. So I love to hear about that.
It's true, isn't it? Because at the minute, we've got really, really heavy frost everywhere. It's almost like it's white over. It's so heavy. And it's just seeing the differences of how we approach that. The kids are like, yay, it's snow. And they're out and they're like skidding all over the place. And the adults are like, I'm going to fall over. I need to put sensible shoes on. We're teetering around everywhere. We're walking on eggshells, and they're charging around like a Bambi on ice. And you just think, it's amazing. It's exactly the same situation. And yet the way that we view it, theirs is fearless and ours is full of all of what could go wrong.
Such a great point. I know. I'm not a big fan of ice or snow. And you look at it, you think, oh no, I could break this and I could break that, and that would mean this. And they're like, wow, let me go diving down there, see what happens. So
I wear my glittery sandals. It's non-uniform day. And I was like, well, let's have a look outside and see if we think that that's a sensible choice.
I absolutely love it. Well, thanks for bringing cheer to our program and to our platform. And I'm super excited about the fact that people can now watch your TEDx speech. I'm excited to watch it as well. And we have the link here. You can go over to YouTube. For those of you who are on the radio, I think, can you just Google TEDx and put in your name, right?
That's right. If you do TEDx and Adele Randall, you'll find it. And it was, it's been a slightly overwhelming week, because you never know when it's going to go live, or even actually if it's going to go live. Because even if you are lucky enough to be given an opportunity to speak at one of the events, it then actually, which I didn't realize, it then goes to TEDx, and then they triple check it before it's allowed to actually go on the platform. So although I did the talk on the 22nd of October, we didn't really hear very much else. And then late on Friday, my time, so probably mid-morning for you, Dr. Jacalyn, I got a message to say your TEDx is live. And I'm embarrassed to say the first thing I had to do was watch it myself, because I can't remember what I said. I was that terrified when I stood there that I came off, and the only thing that I could remember was telling myself to not run away. So I thought I'd best listen to it, make sure I didn't say anything ludicrous. But then it's just kind of snowballed from there. On Saturday morning, I got a message from somebody I've never met before, who had watched it and reached out to say, I've watched it 9 times. I've been and checked your website out. I felt compelled to get in touch with you and let you know what impact it had on me, and then shared their journey. And I've been really, overwhelmed is the word, with the amount of people that have done that. I've had, I think, 8 or 9 people that have actually got in touch to tell me what impact it had and to share with me something really personal that's gone on in their world, that made it resonate. And I think last time I looked, we were on just over 13,000 views. And kind of when I did it, I thought maybe if I got a couple of hundred views, that would be amazing. And if I could just impact one person, that would be great. That would be worth being vulnerable and sharing my story, because it is quite a personal story that I share. So I'm slightly at a loss for how kind everybody has been.
I think that is fantastic, and I'm so happy for you, and congratulations. I've actually pulled it up if you want us to take a look. It's up to you.
Can do if you'd like to.
Okay, fantastic. So let me take down the banner. So here, let me share my screen, go over here. We're going to be watching, it's about 11 minutes long. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, perfect. We have your permission to watch it, so let's do it. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, let me just make it full. All right, here we go. I skipped the ads. Hopefully this is the very beginning.
But if you felt any of those things.
Oops, I have to go back a little. Sorry, there's ads, so I'm trying to avoid the ads. Okay, hopefully this is it.
Have any of you got dreams that you hope to achieve? Have you ever doubted yourself, feared that you might not be successful? Or have you ever thought there might be something more inside of you, something unique, a natural talent to share with the world? And we can't ever admit that, can we? It's a little bit egotistical, and we're told not to. But if you felt any of those things, I felt them too. When I was 43, I was blessed to become mum to Scarlett. Scarlett's my North Star. She guides me daily to be the very best version of myself. When she was 9 months old, I found the lump. And my mind immediately leapt to fear. Fear that I wouldn't be around to see her grow into whomever she's destined to be. Fear that I wouldn't be able to share with her all the love, the guidance, the advice, the support, the care that I'd hoped to be with her on her journey. And so I went to write a letter to cram all of that into something that could survive me and support her on her journey. I remember looking down at that blank sheet of paper, taunting me with my inability to get started. Because where do you start that letter? I didn't know. And so I remember going upstairs for inspiration. I crept into a room and watched her, fast asleep, Lenny the lion tucked safely under her arm, breathing heavily as she dreamt about her day and made sense of her adventures. And it struck me in that moment that I wanted to tell her that there was nothing she couldn't do, that she needed to just believe in herself, to take action, to be unstoppable, and to believe in all that she could achieve. And whilst I wanted to say all of those things to her, while I believed them to be true, I realized I didn't believe them to be true of me all of the time. And it struck me in that minute that our children don't learn just by what we say. They learn by what we do and how we are. And that the voice that we talk to ourselves becomes the voice we teach our children to talk to themselves. It was like the world stopped.
Live streaming can be tricky, and sometimes trying to find the right software.
Or maybe it was just my heart, because I haven't always been very kind to myself. I haven't always demonstrated the belief that I'd like to see in my child. And so I vowed that if I were granted the gift of more life with Scarlett, I would go and do the work to understand how to change the voice in my head, to leave the legacy of Scarlett. What followed was months of doctors, tests, treatments, and I was lucky. I was granted the gift of more life with Scarlett. And I remembered my vow to go and change the voice in my head, to make sure it wasn't the voice I left in hers. And that brings me to the idea I want to share with you guys today. An idea designed to help you to build brave belief, to be unstoppable, and to achieve whatever it is you desire for you and for your teams. So what did I learn? Well, I went on quite a journey, listening to inspirational speakers, going to counselors, coaches, taking training. And I identified that it comes down to one simple thing: belief. If we think for a moment about hope and fear, both of them are imagined. Whatever we're fearful of hasn't happened yet. We have to imagine it. We have to think about what that's going to feel like. The same's true for whatever we hope for. Also hasn't happened. Also has to be imagined. In exactly the same brain. The same brain imagines both. So why is it that we believe that what we're fearful of is more credible and more likely than what we're hopeful for? Because both were created by us. And it brings me to Einstein's theory of relativity. So he shares with us that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The same is true not just of what we do, but what we say and what we think. Our subconscious brain is the happiest helper we will ever have in our life. But it comes with one really significant flaw. It doesn't understand the difference between help and harm. Whatever we tell it, it goes and finds evidence to prove us right. So when I tell it I'm going to stand up and do public speaking, it reminds me that 23 years ago, I stood up in a room significantly bigger than this one and told about 600 people that the charity we were about to support was Imperial Leather, which clearly is a soap. And the charity I was desperately searching for was Imperial Cancer. And despite the fact that 23 years later, I've not said anything that stupid again, it still brings it back to mind. And so I have to ask myself, are there any times when I've been good, or at least okay, at public speaking? And it will then run back into the library of my brain and bring back all of the times where people stopped to tell me their story after hearing me speak, or write to me months later to share with me something they'd achieved as a result of having taken some action following a conversation that we'd had. And so I can look at it now and go, okay, I can get it wrong. I can say something really daft. Or I could get it right. Which one am I going to choose to believe? And then I focus where I want to go. Because our subconscious brain will try and find ways to make it happen. If you think about a time you were going to buy a car, and you know the make, the model, the color, and all of a sudden, all you see is that car. And it's not because all of a sudden there's more of those cars around. It's because your subconscious brain is filtering it into view. It's trying to make it happen. So if we can learn to be focused on where we want to go instead of where we don't want to go, it makes a big difference. As human beings, we believe that we tell the truth. But what if I were to tell you it's just our truth and that the opposite could also be true? And it comes down to that word, belief. Imagine, if you will, that in the morning you wake up, you're going to have to learn how to walk or talk or run or skip. You'd be overwhelmed. We'd all be overwhelmed. And yet the reality is, at our most vulnerable, we learned it. So why is that? And again, I believe it comes down to one thing in two parts, belief. The first is we believe that we can, because we believe we're like you. We think we're like our parents, so you can do it, so I can do it. So there is that belief that if I keep trying, I'm going to get there. And the second, and perhaps for me the most important lesson I learned in leadership, was I've yet to see a child learning to walk that doesn't have at least one adult nearby going, come on, you've got this, you can do it. We quite literally give them our belief so they can add it to their own. And we do this as adults every day, but we just don't do it overtly. As human beings, we don't want to look stupid. We don't want to get it wrong. We don't want to be silly. And so when we ask a member of our team to do something, or when somebody asks us to do something, it's because they believe we're going to be successful. If not, they look silly just as much as we look silly. But what if they shared with us exactly why it was they believed we were going to be successful? We know from the statistics that 70% of the world globally at some point doubts their ability, doesn't believe in themselves. Imagine the impact we could have if when we asked them to do something, we shared exactly why we think they're going to be successful. And I've seen the power of this. I've spent the last 20 years running multi-million-pound organizations, and belief is the greatest gift that we can share. I was working with a client recently, and they'd got a massive target. They headed into the last day of their financial year, and they needed to make £500,000, something that they'd got nowhere close to. The ask was tremendous. And I stood with the leadership team, and we shared with that team exactly why we believed they were going to be successful, specifically what it was about them that we needed them to continue to do today to enable them to be successful. I can't begin to describe the moment when their belief matched ours, when you realized that they no longer needed to borrow ours because they believed it of themselves. They didn't just hit that target, they annihilated it. And they've gone on to regularly have £1 million days. And it was because they now had the right belief. So what would I like you to take away from giving me the gift of listening to me? I'd like you to take away 2 things. The first is the next time you find yourself focused on something you don't want, ask yourself, what do I want? And choose to believe that it will happen. And the second is the next time you're given an opportunity to share your belief in somebody else, take it. You never know the impact that's going to have. And I'd like to end by sharing with you a quote that I wrote for Scarlett, and I believe it to be true of everybody. Be kind, be curious, take action, dream big, and believe, because you are proof that miracles happen. Thank you for listening.
That was amazing, incredible. Whew. I felt like all the emotions that you were probably going through. I mean, I imagine, when you first started out talking about it, and then at the end, when you're closing up, and the power in the middle, it was truly just so authentic. And you didn't have a teleprompter, did you?
No. So you had to just go with, and I didn't have a script because I didn't want a script. I knew what I wanted to say, and I'd rehearsed, but it went different, kind of, I think a little bit different every time, but I wanted it, because it was my story, I wanted it to be my authentic story. And it was really hard because I can't even watch that bit now, and we talk about possibly not being there to survive for Scarlett. And it's ridiculous because I'm here and I've survived and I'm here for her. But every time I think about it, it takes me right back to feeling that I might miss being there with her and seeing that. So choosing to share that story at the start was really hard, because I don't want to go, just don't cry. Remind yourself that you're here, you're still here, you're alive. You've had 5 more years of Scarlett, and what an amazing gift that's been for me personally. But I guess I just thought, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it authentically. I mean, my business and my show, everything is called Authentic Achievement. If you're not going to be authentically you, it's going to jar quite badly, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. You were so real and so compelling, and it really had me thinking there. It's so true that we feed into it by doubting ourselves. It's like eating the wrong food and wondering why we don't feel well. Well, we put it there, right?
You know, I think about it, and I think about what we do with each other. You know, would you ever say some of the things that you say to yourself to people that you love and care about? Would you ever be so negative? Would you ever be so unsupportive? And we wouldn't, would we? You know, I always look at Scott. I think Scarlett can do anything as long as she's kind and she tries hard. So I'll be like, come on, sweetheart, of course you can do it. And even if you don't succeed the first time, you'll have learned a way to not do it, which gets you closer for next time. So it's like, why can't we be that kind to ourselves? Why can't we make the same choices for us that we would make for the people that we love most in the world?
Exactly. I agree with you. It's really food for thought. And when we think about the topic today, the plans I'm making for change in 2023, this seems like a great one for everyone. And I love that you were so real and shared that you rehearse this over and over and over again, and you didn't have a script. And we don't have a script in life, right? But when you think about the patterns of behavior, the things that we do over and over and over again that lead to us making the choices that we make, why not do positive behavior, demonstrate happiness, joy, consideration for other people, because these are all positive things that result in positive outcomes.
That's so true. And too often we set our goal in the negative. We set our goal about what we don't want. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to not have any money. I don't want pudding to decide now's a good time to buy. You know,
hi, pudding. Hello.
What are you doing? I'm so sorry. Come on, you crazy animal. Do you want to come and say hello? So Pudding's come to say hi to everybody.
Hi, Pudding. Nice to see you, Pudding. Happy holidays.
But we focus on the things that we don't want. And if instead we focus on the things that we do want, so instead of I don't want to be overweight, I do want to be slimmer. Instead of I don't want to be in debt, I do want to have savings. Again, because if we focus all of our goals in the negative, when we achieve them, there's not as much to celebrate because all we achieved is not doing something we didn't want. So it's lost its shine. You know, I work with organizations all over the world, and the amount of them that go, got minimum standards, Kim. I was like, oh, please don't have minimum standards. Because imagine you work really, really hard. You get to do everything that organization has asked you to do. And I get to come home from that really hard day at work and say to Scarlett, hey, guess what, darling? Today, mummy was absolutely minimum. Well, how's that going to make you feel? And she's probably not going to get that excited about it. There's probably not going to be a huge level of appreciation. But if instead we called those same standards of excellence, we just don't accept anything less than excellent. Same hard day, same delivery. But now when I go home, I get to say to her, hey, guess what, Scarly, today mummy was excellent. Which one's going to make you feel better? Which one's going to motivate you more? And which one of them is more likely to keep you wanting to go back? And I think it's one of the things that if we learn it to focus on whenever we look at that dream, saying, is it something that I want or something that I don't want? And if it's something that I don't want, what is it that I want in its place? And turn it into that positive and look at kind of how you're going to feel when you achieve that.
Exactly. And Pudding agrees. Pudding's like, yes, I agree.
He's such a grumpy little man. Pudding, it's just the neighbours, darling.
You know what I think is so important also is as we get older, the things that we have been told or that we have taken on, it's almost like it becomes part of us. And it's so hard to overcome those beliefs that we've had for decades that it's almost like it's an arm. I mean, it's there. So when we're children or when we're adolescents, if we learned to believe and go with hope instead of fear, imagine how we would be decades later.
It's so true. Because I think, if we think about our beliefs and how they work, belief becomes like a tabletop. And every time something else happens that reinforces that, it's like another leg until in the end, you've got the most stable table you're ever going to have. And we create these. So by the time we're 7, we've already started to think about what our belief system is, what we think about for ourselves. If we were to describe ourselves, what would that look like? By the age of 14, we start to enforce that. We start to have more and more legs on those tables of belief. And by the age of 21, we've pretty much embedded it. That has become the unwritten blueprint to our life. And mine were, I'm not good enough, I'm always alone, and I'm unlovable. And therefore, whatever happened in my life, I could bring it back to one of those and go, oh, that's okay. Because I knew that. I knew I wasn't good enough. I knew I wasn't livable. None of it's true. It wasn't a truth. It wasn't the truth, sorry, it was a truth. It was something that I'd told myself. It was a perspective that I'd seen. And I had to spend the last 5 or 6 years going back and unpicking all of that, working out what bits were true and what bits weren't true. What had actually happened in my life, and what had I made it mean? Because it may resonate when you are talking with somebody who was at a particular event in your life. And yet when they describe it completely differently to how you remember it. And it's not because either one of you is lying. It's because when anything happens in our world, what actually happens is one thing, but then we make it mean something. We attach emotion to it. And the emotion we attach to it may be very different to the emotion that the other person attaches to it. And that's why we can describe, we can go in and ask people to describe a room. And they'll come back and we'll all describe it slightly differently. Everybody will have spotted one thing that somebody else didn't spot. And again, it's not because we're trying to lie or because we're not observant, but it's because that subconscious brain, that happy little helper, filters out of view anything it thinks isn't very interesting. Over here in the UK, we used to have a game called the Generation Game. At the end of it, they used to whiz past all of these prizes. There was always a cuddly toy. There was always a dinner service, but it'd go past and they'd have to try and remember as many of them that they could, and all the ones they remembered they'd get. The reason it worked is because their subconscious brain would filter out anything that it didn't think was very interesting or very important, nothing that had attached an emotion to it in the moment that therefore allowed them to recall it.
Absolutely. I was just, sometimes I forget I have to come back because I'm producing the show. I'm listening so much. Yeah, it's so true. I think what would be really fascinating for people who are thinking about making a change in 2023, and one of the things on their list, whether it's for next year or after, is to be a TEDx speaker. There's a lot involved. And I think at any point somebody could say, wow, I don't think I'm going to complete this because I'm not good enough. I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything people want to listen to, right? All those things go through people's minds. So what I'd love to do is I'd love to give you the spotlight and take 5 minutes or so, just walk us through that whole process.
Of course. And trust me, I get it. I remember even on the day, when I was heading out talking to the organizer and going, but I'm not even certain that this is going to be of any interest to anybody. Maybe I've got nothing of value to say. And their advice really stuck with me, because they were like, if you could just see what we could see, then you'd recognize it. And for all of you, if you've got something that's in you to say and that you want to go and share, then I would implore you to do it, to believe in yourself, to go out there and share your message with the world. Because even if it helps just one person, what a blessing and an impact you'll have had for that one person. And somebody asked me the other day, have you got any advice on the TEDx? And I was like, well, I can tell you what I did. I'm not saying it's perfect, it's just the way I did it. I wanted to do a TEDx because somehow I'd managed to convince myself that if I were successful to get a TEDx, then that meant maybe I was an okay speaker. Even though I've been being paid to be a speaker for about 15 years, in my head, doing this voluntary TEDx was going to give me the credibility that meant that I was a valid speaker, that I could say that I'd got something to share with the world. And so I looked at which TEDx's were right for me. So I really wanted to make sure that I understood that TEDx's are they're done by volunteers who've usually got a real drive to get ideas out there, to make a difference, to start a conversation, to spark a debate. And so each TEDx will have a theme that they're wanting to get through. So I went and looked at which TEDx's appealed to me because either I knew the community really well. So the reason I went for Doncaster is I used to work there many years ago. I've got friends that still live there. My daughter's father lives in that area. So I knew the community well, and I knew the journey that Doncaster had been on. So it was really important for me that I actually picked a TEDx to apply to that I felt that I could add some value to, and that I could share with them why I thought I could. I spent time looking at previous speeches that they'd had, previous events that they'd done. So I got an understanding of what they were trying to achieve as that TEDx. And therefore, when you applied, you made it very personal. Even for my TEDx, which was in a relatively small event, they're a few years into having their license, and the way it works, you start off, they're only allowed to have a license for 100 people to watch it physically. And then once they've been able to demonstrate that their delivery of TEDx is aligned to TEDs and TEDx's globally, then they can apply for an extension of that license. So I knew all of that was really important to them. And even for this relatively small event, they had hundreds and hundreds of people apply. That's because there is so many people that want to do one. But actually, rather than investing the time to really research which ones you want to do and put as much effort into understanding what they're doing and what's important to them, and learning a little bit about the people that are putting it together, so that when you can do that application, it's much more personal and much more impactful, because actually it's not just I want to do a TEDx, it's I want to do your TEDx. I want to be part of your roster of speakers, because these people are amazing individuals. They've got such a passion for what they do and for the communities within which they serve. So for me, if I were giving you guys any recommendations, it would be really go and research which TEDx's you'd really like to get involved in. Start to connect with past speakers, with the organisers, watch what's going on in those events, so that again, you can build all of that into your application. The application is quite big. It takes quite a lot of time. The other thing I'd say, and I learned from my mistakes, is open it in a separate Word document. Don't just start filling it in the form, because if you kind of run out of time, it disappears or it crashes halfway through. You've got to start again. So, and I have had that happen to me. So start it as a separate document. Start it early. The questions and things that you have to answer are pretty standard across all of them. So you could start to create that document now. And then when you're thinking about your idea, it's really going to be like, what is it about your idea that's different? And that might not be that you're sharing a different idea. I talked about belief. Belief isn't new. It's not something only I talk about. We all know about belief. We all talk about it. We've all got those elements. For me, what I was talking about that perhaps shone a different light on it was that impact of belief in both a positive and a negative way, by sharing some stories of my life, of where it worked for me and where it worked against me, and how I thought that aligned to the theme that they were running this year, which was opening doors and breaking through. And kind of my whole ethos was the biggest breakthrough we can have is to change our belief. So I would say, really do some of that research. These people are so helpful. Reach out to them and ask them, what are they looking for in their speakers? What would be any hints and tips that they could give you about how to craft a message and an impact statement? And then think about what's the takeaway. So for it to be a TEDx that meets the requirements, it's got to be an idea that's going to spark a debate, start a conversation. You've normally got between 12 and 15 minutes to be able to share that story. So you're not going to be able to really massively educate to the nth degree. It's not a lecture, but what it is enough information that people want to have a conversation on it. And that's certainly what I found, because people have so kindly got in touch and wanted to carry on the conversation. So think about kind of what that part is, and then what's the call to action? What do you want people to take away or to do differently or to consider as a result of having given you the time to listen to what it is that you wanted to share? And I think, if you can do, if you put all of that effort in at the start, then actually it gives you so much more confidence that what you're going to do is going to be impactful. And I say that knowing that, literally two weeks it was before the TEDx was live, I had to do a rehearsal in a room with the other 15 speakers, a really safe space. These were like-minded people going through exactly the same thing. We'd been on a 12-week training and support and coaching to help make sure that we could articulate ourselves with as much impact as we could. And yet I stood there and I was that terrified. I think I delivered the speech in 8 minutes. I think I said as many words as you just heard if you watched the whole 11 minutes. So imagine how fast I spoke. And I wedged it all in because I desperately just wanted to sit down because my legs were shaking so badly. And I felt like a massive imposter, like I had nothing to share, nothing of value to give to anybody else, and that they were going to turn around and go, we were just joking. You're not allowed to come on. And that is just that fear. I was hopeful that I would deliver something that impacted at least one person, but I was fearful that it was just self-indulgent nonsense that was going to be of no use to anybody. So even though my speech was about how we turn our fear into hope, I still found myself in those moments knowing what I was doing to myself, knowing that this was an opportunity to choose, and yet still struggling really hard to make the right choice. And in the end, on the day, and we had the dress rehearsal the week before. My legs had managed to shake a little bit less by then. But even on the day, I acknowledged just how different I am with myself than I am with other people. As my fellow speakers were going up, I was like, brilliant, just believe in yourself. They've got such amazing thoughts and advice to share. And I highly recommend anybody who's got time to go and watch some of them. You will be blown away by just what was shared on that day. And I was very, very encouraging, and I meant every word of it. These were amazingly talented, bright individuals with a gift to share to the world. And yet when it came to myself, when it came to standing out in the corridor, all mic'd up, waiting to go on, I remember glaring at myself in the reflection of myself in the fire escape door that I was looking at in the back of this theatre, and going, just get over yourself. It's 12 minutes and you're going to live. So stop being such a baby and get out there and do it. What an awful way to talk to somebody. And I would never have done that to anybody else. And it hit me as I was heading onto the stage that even though I know that it is about choice, even though I know that hope and fear are created in our heads, in that moment, I had been choosing the fear that it would all go wrong rather than the hope that it might go well. So I think knowing it and acknowledging it and recognizing that we'll catch ourselves in those moments, but it's okay to just be kind. So if you've got a TEDx in you, if you've got a drive and desire to go and do it, make that one of the things you change in 2023. Go and speak to somebody. Start your plan of how you're going to get there. Which one is it going to be? Imagine yourself on that stage, what it's going to be like when you're on that speaker announcement. And then let us know when you get there, because I would love to hear your story.
And we are so glad that we heard your story today. We were able to take a look at it. That was really special. I didn't know we would be doing that today. Probably you didn't know either. And I love when things just come together. So lots of incredible hope and inspiration that you have given us and given me personally. Thank you, KIM-ADELE.
Thank you. And you have also got an amazing authentic achievement yourself.
Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot. I have my book. I have all my books here. Let me just spotlight myself so we can see it. This is, there's a lot of green in here, so you can't see it, but this is the first of 7 books. This is The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. And this book is dedicated to my great niece, who is here, Lady Ella. And the book is all about elevated listening skills for children as well as adults. And each of the animal characters that you see on the book cover represents a real person, a person who took my course, The Power of Listening, and got certified. And they are in alignment with our mission to help everyone across the world learn how to listen without interruption, without judgment, without providing solutions, and without stealing the stage by making the story about you instead of letting them share their own story. So if you're interested, you can pick up a copy of this book. It actually became Amazon #1 new release on Wednesday, and you can get the paperback as well as the ebook over on Amazon. Just Google my name. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And congratulations to our team of people who are actually on the book. I'll just say who they are quickly. We have the cow, Belle, is my sister, Debbie Wilson. The owl in the tree is Caroline Heward. The ladybug is me, the listening mentor. The horse is Errol, and that is Hyatt Ives. The orangutan is Alana, and that is Sonia. Moldina, she is she's in London. I should say where everyone's from. Debbie is in the United States. Caroline is in London. Hyatt is in the United States. And Sonia is also in the UK, I believe. And we have the red ibis bird, and that is Red O'Laughlin. He's in the United States. We have Roland Friedel, the panther, Abu, and he is actually in his motorhome driving through Europe. I think he's in Portugal right now. We have Zell the gazelle, that's Diane Floyd Bame, and she is in the United States. And then we also have the lioness, whose name is Sikaliza, and she is in Africa. This is Janetta Barry. So thanks again, everyone. And you can pick up your copy. As I mentioned, just Google Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. So.
Oh, you should be so proud. I know that all of your books have such an impact. And you're right, if we can give people the gift of listening, it really is an act of love, isn't it? When we listen to somebody, just to listen, it really is a piece of genuine love and caring. And I think listening and belief together, we can change the world.
I agree with you. If you're looking for a gift to give somebody, give them a gift of just listening. And just to elaborate on that, because this happens so much, when you're listening, it's not about fixing the situation or providing a solution. As soon as we switch off and start focusing on, oh, I can fix that for her, I can help him with that. No, nobody asked you for that, because they just want you to listen. If they say to you, what do you think I should do? That's a different situation, but we're so busy, we check out. We're no longer listening because we're coming up with, oh, I can fix it for him or her.
Yeah.
So, and we have a comment from one of our team members. Hi, Maria. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Nice to have you with us. And Maria is also an elevated listener. So we are going to wrap up. Our next show is coming up. It's The Power of Etiquette and Manners, which is always a great one. We talk a lot about listening there. But KIM-ADELE, you also are an author, and you've written how many books? 9, 6? I forget. 25? 6. Tell us about your books and where we can find them.
So I co-authored a fair few. So they range from remote working, women leading, pivot and grow. They're all on Amazon. And I'm in the process of finalizing my 6th book, which is Authentic Achievements, which is going to come out next year. And has really got some great interviews with other people sharing exactly what they did. And it's the 7 steps to building brave belief and being unstoppable. So I will let you guys know as soon as it comes out. You can get them all on Amazon. But if you've got an authentic achievement that you'd like to share, if you've got a story, or if you want to get in touch to see how I can help you and your organization be unstoppable, then you can reach out directly, kim@kimadelerandall.com, or you can check out what we're up to at www.authenticachievements.com.
You beat me, Kim. I'm trying to pull it up on Amazon. Just give me a minute.
Today, aren't I? We've done a lot of me, and it always feels like that should be it should be more people. I think I'm going into a moment of personal doubt again, as we often do, don't we? It's like, just stop talking.
Let me share the screen so people can see. I found, and you probably have found this too, that when you show people something, it really resonates a lot
Yeah.
more. Okay, so here we are over on Amazon, and you can see these are your books, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, don't want to be.
No, that's right. So we've got the conflict revolution, sorry, which is all about actually how you reduce conflict. And a large part of it is the fact that it's going back to that, not what's happening, it's what we've made it mean. So we're over here dealing in the emotion rather than over here dealing in the facts. So it's really designed to help people to tackle those difficult conversations and do it effortlessly. And then there's leadership, the compelling story, which is about the 15 pillars that are in each of us as individuals and within our organization, and how we can understand where we sit and how we change. And then the other three are the ones that I mentioned. So thank you so much, Dr. Jacalyn, for sharing. I appreciate it.
No problem. And these other things we have nothing to do with, so we're not paid spokespersons. People. Okay. Thank you. All right, we're going to sign off and get ready for our next show. Please do go and watch KIM-ADELE's TEDx again. There's the link right there. And do reach out to her and let her know how it impacted you. And also, please do pick up copies of her books. And have a beautiful time with Scarlett, and keep sending all that joy and love across the world, KIM-ADELE.
Will do. And take care and celebrate yourself. We will be raising a glass to celebrate with you this evening.
Oh, thank you. All right, I'll see you later. Bye, Pudding. So to each and every one of you, I would just like to say happy holidays, and please feel free to book yourself in for an interview with us. Just go over to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. If you're on our YouTube channel, we would love for you to subscribe. We are having more and more people. Yesterday, I just had another publicist reach out. They're going to be bringing all their people here. So it's a fun place to be. It's a great time to join our team by becoming an elevated listener or a co-host or a host or a panelist. There's lots of opportunities. And I'm going to do a little self-promotion right now and show you where you can find my books, because I really I'm so excited, especially about this listening series, because I feel like it's such an important thing for people to learn how to listen. And many people think they're already great listeners. And I would have to really call you out on that and ask you to contact me so we can explore that more. Maybe you are, but there's always room to learn. So here are the books. Let me make sure that I'm actually sharing. Yes, I am. Okay. So this is the book that was just released, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. And as I mentioned, it just came out this week. So there's only one review, because I know probably 15 people who left reviews, but they're not showing up yet. So you can get this in paperback, or you can get it in an ebook. And it was #1 Amazon new release on Wednesday. This is my first book, Behind the Green Screen, How to Succeed in the Live Broadcasting Business. And this became an Amazon #1 bestseller. You can pick this up. This is how and why I started this platform, how I left the corporate world, and the things that happened to me along this journey to start this platform. And it's, I think it's very insightful, and I'm hoping that it'll give people absolutely a lot of information about how to start a business. It's not just about broadcasting. This was my second book, which also became an Amazon #1 bestseller, Adversity to Awesome, True Life Stories of Inspiration from Survivors of Imprisonment, Addiction, Sexual Assault, and More. This is also available in ebook and paperback. The first chapter of this book is about me and how I was raped and how I dealt with it. And the other chapters are interviews that I had with people who also went through some type of trauma. And then I worked with my book coach, Red O'Loughlin, to put it into third person. So these are stories that will inspire you and realize that you can overcome almost anything. And then this is our newest release in the Lady Ella series. This is it says book 1 of 1, but this is book 2 of 7. So we'll have to fix that. It's available on pre-order right now. We actually have a brand new cover, so that has to be updated. But this became an Amazon #1 new release yesterday, which is really exciting. And Lady Ella, the ladybug, leaves Gentle Farm from the first book, and she heads over to the School of Joy, where she meets a whole new group of elevated listeners. And the journey continues. So please do go over to Amazon and take a look. We actually just sold out our third book in terms of the cast who's going to be involved. The third book is Lady Ella Has Afternoon Tea in London. So we have book 4, 5, 6, and 7. If you would like to be part of it and be one of the animal characters in the book, you have to be an elevated listener. And that means you have to take our course, which is available for everyone in the world. This is the course. It's The Power of Listening. It's a 2-hour course that you can take online on demand at your convenience. And it's actually on sale. So you can purchase it now for $39. Just go over to drjacalyn.thinkific.com/collections. We currently have 7 courses that are all centered around well-being and listening. So this is the one that enables you to be part of our books. So the 4th book, I'm actively looking for people who are elevated listeners, and the 4th book takes place in Paris. So I'm excited. And again, would love to have you join us. So thanks again for being here. We're going to sign off and come back with our next show. We'll be back in less than 10 minutes. Bye for now.